Memorizing a piece of music can be challenging. Memorizing a few pieces of music in a row can be even more so. But memorizing an entire show's worth of music requires a different level of learning. Today I want to share with you a process that I'm currently going through of attempting to learn an hour-long show and give you the tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way to help to really internalize the music and be able to recall it when the pressure is on. Let's get into it. What's up everyone, welcome to Drummer's Perspective. My name is Ben Todd and I'm here to help broaden your scope of what's possible as a drummer. Thanks so much for checking out this video today. Whether you're watching here on YouTube or you're listening on the podcast, I really appreciate you wherever you're coming in from. If you are here on YouTube though, please subscribe to the channel. That really does help me out and it lets you know next time I got a video coming out. Now today, as I mentioned, I'm going to share with you a process that I'm currently going through right now of attempting to learn an hour-long show that I'll be a part of in a few weeks' time. Now, this show is a circus-style show, which means that the music is going to change slightly night to night. Now, this brings an entirely different level of learning that you have to bring to the table when you're attempting to internalize this kind of music. You have to learn the structures and the arrangements to a certain degree, but also not so much that you're locked into them 100%. You have to leave room in your mind to be able to extend certain sections and know where things can be flexible and where you might have to adjust on a night-to-night basis. Now, I will say that everyone learns differently and everyone memorizes material and music differently. And this is the method and the approaches that have worked for me in the past over the shows that I've done where I've had to memorize them. But they may not work for everyone, and that's totally okay. You know, you just have to find your own way of doing it, but hopefully some or all of the techniques that I'll share with you today will help you if you're attempting to learn a large amount of music to perform in a show context. So this show that I'm going to be a part of in a couple of weeks' time, it's a really, really cool show. As I mentioned, it's a circus style show. So there are many sections of the music that are going to be flexible and need to change night to night, but at the same point I have to learn the music as best as I can and then leave space, as I said, in my mind for things to change nightly. The reference material that I have to learn this particular show is just two live iPhone videos that have been given to me of two different dates of the show. So even in that I can see the differences from one performance to the next, which is really, really handy. If I was just had one video to learn this material from, it would be a lot more challenging because I'd have to try and decide for myself or imagine where things might be flexible or adjustable. But having the two different reference videos is super, super helpful. So yeah, my process of memorizing a show is pretty much the same whatever the show is. I like to think of it on a macro and micro level. So you're learning the whole show, of course. You want to be able to perform everything, but also there's a lot of details and nuance in the music that you obviously have to know as well. You know, specific drum grooves, particular arrangements, all that kind of stuff. But then also you want to learn the overall shape and energy of the show and know where things have to really push and ramp up and where you can take a breather and kind of relax in the show as well. That's all really important stuff. So with all that being said, let's get into it. So as you would imagine, the key to learning anything and internalizing anything is really about repetition. Just playing the same thing over and over again or listening to the same thing over and over again really helps to memorize it and internalize it. That being said, there are some things that I've found and discovered along the way that have helped to kind of speed up that process a little bit and not just have me sitting there for hours listening over and over and over and over again until I think that it's kind of got into my brain. So the first main thing that I do, even when I know that I'm going to have to perform the show without any charts and just by memory, is actually write out the charts for the show. I'm not really someone who can just listen to a song once or twice and then have it in my memory. I really envy the people that are able to do that, but for me, that's just not part of my skill set. What I have done in the past and what has proven to work for me time and time again is to actually write out charts for everything. This is for many reasons. One, like I said, it helps to kind of speed up the process of learning something using visualization. So just by writing out a chart, it helps me to see certain patterns and see certain arrangements and certain grooves in my mind, so that later on when I'm trying to steer away from the charts, I can have kind of a mental picture of some of this stuff. I've also found that when you listen to music to write it out, you kind of listen, or for me anyway, at least, I listen on a slightly deeper level because I'm really, really focusing on everything and trying to write out every nuance and detail that I can in the music. So by listening in this way, I think that it really helps me to kind of internalize the music quicker as well, even if it's kind of subconscious. So yeah, that's the first step that I do. When I get the music, whatever it might be, a video or recording, the first thing I do is just go top to bottom and write out all the charts. In the past, this, has kind of sometimes been enough for me to be able to memorize something, especially if I'm doing like a track here in the studio where it's just a one-off kind of thing, a simple pop song. Once I kind of write the chart out, sometimes I don't actually need it after that. It's just having it in my mind already, and the act, like I said, of listening to it on a deeper level, I've been able to internalize it much quicker than if I wasn't to write the chart out. So yeah, that's the first step for me. Have all the charts ready to go, and then from there, I move on to actually playing them, playing the show through with the charts, reading everything, and playing along with the recording. And I kind of break this next bit up into sections as well. So first thing I do, and I think it's really important to do this, is just play the whole show top to bottom. Each, reading the charts, each song one at a time, but in the order that the show's going to be. For me, I've found at least that this helps to give me a really good overall sense of what the show is going to feel like, energy-wise. I can hear and feel as I'm playing it through, the kind of peaks and troughs in the energy, and just to give me a really nice overall picture of what the whole thing's going to be ultimately. As I'm playing the charts through, there's no doubt that there's going to be mistakes either in the playing or in the charts, and of course if that happens then I'll go back and adjust the charts. But apart from that, I'm really not being too judgmental or analytical about the playing. It's just about getting through it once and getting a really nice overall sense of like, okay, that's the whole show, great, good to know. Then I'll dial in the details and kind of go from a macro level to a micro level of learning the really, really small, intricate details of the specific pieces of music. But yeah, that's the first step. Play everything top to bottom with the charts, and just don't worry too much about nailing everything perfectly. Just get a nice overall sense of the music. Next step, go back and play each individual piece of the music one at a time. And I'll do this kind of like in a way where I would learn any song, where you just kind of play the same song over and over and over again. And if there are mistakes or things that need addressing, either technically or comfortability wise in your coordination, then I'll spend a good amount of time at this stage trying to figure all of that stuff out. So yeah, really dialing in on each specific tune one at a time and trying to just learn it as best as possible. So that'll be, at least 4 or 5 times of playing each song through, and then, moving on to the next one. I will say that probably, well, at least for me anyway, I when I'm learning a show like this and I get to this stage, I don't get through the whole show in one practice session just due to time constraints. I'm not able to play every song from the show like 4 or 5 times in one single practice session at the moment. It's just not possible for me in my schedule. So, but that's okay. Wherever you get to in the show and you have to finish your practice time, just stop, move, and leave, and then the next day you come back, start where you kind of picked up. So yeah, that's the next stage. Go and dial in each individual piece of music and just play it, over and over and over again until you can really feel comfortable with that specific song, and then move on to the next one. After that, I'll go back and play the whole show again, top to bottom. Now, when I get to this point, I try to kind of start to steer away from the charts a little bit, if this hasn't happened already, just by playing the same song over and over again. But yeah, I try to, push myself to not look too much at the music at this stage. And I've found, at least in the past, that obviously some pieces are simpler, quote unquote, than others, arrangement wise, so they're able to be internalized a little bit quicker, and some are more challenging. But I kind of like to think of it like, the ones where it is challenging, they're obviously taking up more mental space, and the ones that aren't as challenging and are easier to remember are taking up smaller amount of mental space. So over time, this will, balance out until you can kind of have a pretty even knowledge of everything in the show. So yeah, once again, top to bottom, and try and steer away from the charts a little bit. Once we get to this point of playing it all the way through again, after the multiple repetitions of the individual songs, what I like to do is start from the end of the show and work backwards. So I'll play the last song in the show just by itself, maybe 2 or 3 times, and then I'll play the second to last song, the third to last song. And what I've found to be useful about this is that usually when you are learning a large amount of music in a show context like this, you are starting at the beginning of the show and learning from there, and that makes total sense. But sometimes this means that your mental energy is maybe less at the end of the practice session when you're working on the things that are at the end of the show versus the things at the start of the show. So by doing this and really focusing on learning the last few songs of the show really, really well and internalizing that and working backwards, it not only helps to obviously learn that material with really strong mental energy, but also it prevents that feeling that you might have if you are, playing the show through and you're comfortable with the stuff at the beginning, but not so comfortable with the stuff at the end of the show. You can sometimes spend the whole show like worrying if you're going to forget the stuff at the end of the show. So that is never a good feeling. You don't want to be playing, the majority of the thing and just be worried about what's going to happen at the end of the show, because, 99% of the time something will go wrong then, and something will distract you even more so if you're thinking about other things like that. So yeah, that's what I do, is start from the end of the show and kind of work backwards and go, one song at a time. Once I've done that and I've gotten back to the beginning of the show, then I'll play it all the way through again, and this time really try not to look at the charts at all. Ultimately, and again, like, I'm sure that when I get to this stage, there will be mistakes and I'll forget things, and that's totally okay. And in some cases, it's actually good. I like to think of it as like, if you're, training a muscle, like at the gym, something like that, you are, pushing yourself. And when you forget something, you are kind of pushing your mind and stretching your mind to remember it for next time. So it's those little moments of like, how does that go? Oh yeah, that's right. That actually like help to really internalize the music. So don't feel bad about that. If this happens to you, if you're trying to learn a large amount of music all at once and you have these moments of forgetting things, just see it as a good thing. Just see it as like, this is training. This is one, bicep curl if you want. This is one extra rep of like strengthening your knowledge of the music and hoping to remember it for the next time you come back to it. So yeah, at this point, I'm trying to just play the whole show through top to bottom and really not look at the charts. And if I have to look at anything, I'll actually stop and really like dive into that one specific section of the show or section of the piece to just like really hammer it in and try and internalize it as much as I can. And then I'll kind of continue from there. So that's kind of the overall process of what I like to do. So as you can tell, it's kind of big picture, small picture, big picture, small picture, and just trying to learn everything. Obviously, we're trying to learn everything all at once, but needing to nail the small details as well. So at that point, it's just about repetition and playing the thing, as much as you possibly can, and in show order as well. That really helps because you get to kind of have a real sense of how the show flows, and just the details of even remembering like what, song comes after what you're playing. That can be something that can be distracting if it's not comfortable. If you're worried about forgetting something at the end of the show, your mind is taken away and distracted from what you're actually playing. It's the same thing when you're playing a song and you're wondering what the next song actually even is. That cannot be a great feeling either. So yeah, at this point, I'm trying to aim for being able to just not really look at the charts at all and just play the thing as much as I can from top to bottom. One thing that's helped me with this particular show is learning it from these two videos that I have. It's not just audio recordings. Now, similarly to writing the charts out for the songs, having videos to learn from helps to associate certain visual elements of what is going on stage with certain sections of songs. As I said, this particular show is a circus style show, so I'm doing a lot of kind of visual connections to certain tricks and certain movements on stage with particular grooves and particular parts of the show and of the song. So that's something that's really helped me in this particular case. It can actually be distracting at times though, because you're trying to learn music, but then you get caught up in what's actually happening on the screen, and then you forget to actually, what you're actually trying to do. But majority of the time, it has been really, really beneficial for me to learn this stuff in a really, visual representation, both with the sheet music and with the action that's happening on the stage. So I think we'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much once again for checking out this video. I really hope you've enjoyed hearing my thoughts on how I go about approaching learning a large amount of music all at once. In this particular situation, I'm learning a circus style show, but these methods and techniques can be applied to any music that you're needing to learn, whether it be for a TV spot or a recording session or just your band set where you want to be able to perform everything by memory. Hopefully these concepts and techniques will allow you to be able to internalize the music a little bit stronger and take the pressure off any anxiety that you might feel about needing to perform everything by memory. But of course, as always, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got your own concepts and techniques about how you go about approaching learning a large amount of music all at once, I'd love to hear about it, and I know that there's a bunch of other drummers and musicians out there who would appreciate it as well, so please put it in the comments below. That would be really, really great. But as I said, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much once again for checking out the video. Please don't forget to head on over to drummersperspective.com and sign up to the mailing list, and I'll see you next time on Drummer's Perspective.